Welcome back, Coinology. When you hold a tiny 2008 D1 cent coin in your hand, you might not realize you're holding a piece of modern American history that connects you to more than a century of coinage tradition, artistry, and economic story. This small copper-plated zinc disc, weighing just 2.50 grams and measuring 19 millimeters across, carries with it the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, one of the most admired presidents in United States history, and the final chapter of a design that lasted nearly 50 years. The 2008 D penny was struck at the Denver Mint, indicated by the letter D stamped directly below the date on the obverse side of the coin. Like its Philadelphia counterpart from the same year, the 2008 D cent was struck in massive numbers, approximately 2,849,600,000 pieces, making it one of the most common modern pennies produced. The composition of the coin tells a story about changes in coin production in the late 20th century. Prior to 1982, U.S. pennies were primarily made of solid copper. Rising metal costs forced the United States Mint to shift to a more cost-effective planchet, a core composed of 97.5% zinc with only a thin plating of copper, a structure that continues to this day. Despite being called a copper penny in everyday speech, modern pennies like the 2008 D are technically copper-plated zinc coins. The obverse, or front, features a portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Brenner's design first appeared on the Lincoln cent in 1909, marking the centennial of Lincoln's birth, and was the first time an American president appeared on a circulating U.S. coin. Above Lincoln's head is the national motto, "In God We Trust." To Lincoln's left is the word Liberty, and to his right is the year of issue with the small D mint mark indicating the Denver Mint. This portrayal of Lincoln gazing outward has become iconic, connecting every one of these pennies to American values and history. On the reverse, the design displays the Lincoln Memorial not just as a building, but as a symbol of unity, justice, and the enduring legacy of Lincoln's life and work. Designed by Frank Gasparo, this reverse motif had been in continuous use since 1959, replacing the earlier wheat ears reverse that graced pennies from 1909 through 1958. Gasparo's work is significant not only for its longevity on the cent but also for his broader contributions to U.S. coinage, including other major coin designs. In 2008, this memorial reverse was used for the final year before a commemorative set of designs in 2009 and then the Union Shield reverse in 2010. Because so many 2008 D pennies were produced and because they remain common in circulation, most examples you find in everyday pocket change are worth only their face value of 1 cent. Even when graded by professional services, if the coin exhibits wear from use, its collectible value remains low, typically a few cents or at most a couple dollars. Coin collectors distinguish between circulated coins, ones that have been used in everyday transactions, and uncirculated ones that show no signs of wear. In uncirculated condition, especially where the original red copper color is preserved, these coins can fetch modest premiums over face value. In average mint state, uncirculated condition, values often range from a few dollars up to perhaps $20 or $30, but significantly higher values are extremely rare and tied to exceptional preservation. The concept of grading is central to understanding coin value. Professional coin grading services evaluate a coin on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers indicating better condition. Most pennies collected from circulation will grade somewhere in the lower half of this scale, reflecting wear. A coin that deserves a grade above MS60 is one that shows no wear at all, with original mint luster intact. Within the mint state grades, designations like RD, red, indicate that the coin still has much of its original red copper color, a trait that collectors prize because modern zinc pennies tend to brown quickly in circulation. A 2008 D coin that remains deep red with flawless surfaces can be many times more valuable than one that is dull and worn. Despite the potential for better value in high grades, it's crucial to debunk myths that sometimes swirl around coins like the 2008 D penny. There are occasional sensational claims online about specific coins being worth millions or figures like $299 million attached to common dates like 2008 D. Those assertions are not based on legitimate auction records or coin market data. While auctions of truly rare and historically pivotal coins have reached extraordinary prices, in some cases millions of dollars for unique error coins or extremely old and rare issues, the 2008 D penny, being widely struck and circulating in the billions, simply does not have that level of rarity or market demand that could justify a multi-million-dollar valuation. In fact, extreme values for pennies generally come from very special circumstances, such as major mint errors, misstrikes, historical oddities, or coins with extremely low known population counts at the highest grades. For example, truly rare error Lincoln cents from earlier decades have sold for tens of thousands of dollars when they exhibit uncommon production mistakes. Some modern coins with significant errors, double dies, misplaced dies, or off-metal planchets, can attract collector interest, but they are exceptions, not the norm. The standard 2008D example without such an error remains common and collectible primarily for its historical position as the last penny of the Lincoln Memorial Reverse Series. The 2008D penny also serves as a benchmark for coin students and collectors who want to understand how coinage evolved at the beginning of the 21st century. Its composition reflects economic realities, using a cheaper core metal beneath a copper shell. Its design carries forward nearly half a century of tradition before giving way to new artistic choices. Museums and serious collectors treasure sets that show this transition in U.S. coinage design because they mark a tangible shift in how America chose to represent itself on its smallest denomination. Beyond numismatics, the penny itself is at the center of broader debates about currency production, cost, and value. In recent years, outside the scope of the 2008 cent, U.S. policymakers have considered or even moved toward discontinuing the penny due to production costs exceeding face value and decreasing transactional use. Reports in late 2025 announced that penny production officially ended, with the United States Treasury citing costs and modern economic realities. This decision transformed even everyday pennies into pieces of historical interest, with collectors and the general public alike reassessing what these coins mean beyond their face value as 1-cent units. Thus, when you look at a 2008D penny, you're not just seeing a small coin worth practically nothing in raw materials, you're looking at an artifact that embodies shifts in minting technology, evolving numismatic design, economic trends in metal value, and the enduring legacy of one of America's most influential presidents. From the mind of Victor Brenner and the hand of Frank Gasparo to the tens of millions of Americans who have used these pennies in commerce, the story of the 2008 D1-cent coin is much richer and deeper than its 1-cent face value would suggest. Whether you're a serious collector grading coins by the tens of thousands or a curious person finding one in your pocket, this humble penny connects you to a long thread of American history and the fascinating world of coin collecting. Now, as we continue diving deeper into the world of the 2008 D1-cent coin, it becomes even more fascinating when we explore how condition, rarity at the highest levels, grading population reports, minting process details, and collector psychology all combine to influence value. Because while billions of these coins were produced at the Denver Mint, not all 2008 D pennies are created equal in the eyes of serious collectors. When the United States Mint struck the 2008 D Lincoln cent at the United States Mint facility in Denver, the planchets were fed into high-speed coining presses capable of producing hundreds of coins per minute. Each blank zinc core plated with copper was struck between two dies, the obverse die bearing the Lincoln portrait and inscriptions, and the reverse die featuring the Lincoln Memorial. These dies gradually wear down over time. At the beginning of a die's life, coins show sharp details, crisp lines in the memorial columns, and strong luster. As the die ages, details soften, and minor flow lines begin to appear on the coin's surface. This is where advanced collectors begin to separate ordinary pieces from premium examples. A freshly struck 2008 D penny with booming mint luster, no contact marks, and fully struck details may qualify for high mint state grades like MS67 or even MS68. These grades are extremely difficult for modern circulation coins to achieve because billions were struck in bulk and dumped into large bins, where coins banged against each other immediately after striking. Those contact marks reduce grade potential instantly. Most 2008 D pennies you find in circulation today will grade between about uncirculated and MS63 at best. In that condition, they are worth perhaps a few cents to maybe $1 if they still retain original red color. But when we move up to MS66 red, values can rise into the $10 to $25 range depending on market demand. At MS67 red, prices can sometimes reach $50 to $150. Auction fluctuations occur depending on timing and collector competition. However, even at the absolute top of known population grades, these coins do not approach anywhere near $299 million. That figure is purely fictional for this date, and Mintmark.to understand how value is determined. We must talk about third-party grading companies. The two most respected services in the United States are Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company. When a collector believes they have an exceptional 2008 D cent, they may submit it for grading. The coin is authenticated, graded on a 1 to 70 scale, sealed in a tamper-evident holder, and given a certification number. Population reports then show how many coins of that exact grade exist. Here is where things get interesting. Even though nearly 2.85 billion 2008 cents were minted, the number graded at the very highest levels is tiny in comparison. That doesn't make the coin rare in absolute terms, but it makes it conditionally scarce at the very top of the grading scale. If, for example, only a few dozen coins have been certified MS68 red, collectors competing to own the finest example may bid aggressively. This phenomenon is known as condition rarity. The coin itself is common, but perfection is rare. Another major factor affecting value is color designation. Lincoln cents are categorized as brown, BN, red-brown, RB, or red, RD. A fully red 2008 cent retains its original mint brilliance. Because the copper plating is thin, exposure to air, moisture, and handling quickly causes oxidation. Once the surface turns brown, the coin permanently loses its red designation. That is why high-grade red coins command premiums. Let's talk about errors, because this is where many viral stories originate. Some collectors search through rolls of 2008 pennies looking for doubled dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, or other mint errors. While minor die chips or small die cracks are relatively common and usually worth only a few dollars, dramatic off-center errors can sell for $20 to $100 depending on severity. A 50% off-center 2008 cent with a visible date might attract strong collector interest. But again, these values are in the hundreds at most, not millions. The psychology behind extreme price claims often comes from confusion with other rare pennies. For example, the legendary 1943 copper cent, accidentally struck on bronze planchets during World War II, has sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. That coin is rare because only a few dozen exist. The 2008 penny does not share that kind of accidental rarity. It is also important to discuss mint sets. In 2008, the United States Mint issued official uncirculated coin sets containing specially selected examples of that year's coinage, including the 2008 cent. These coins were handled more carefully than circulation strikes and therefore often display better surfaces and stronger luster. Collectors seeking high-grade examples frequently search unopened mint sets to find potential submission candidates. Still, even pristine mint set examples rarely exceed a few $100s unless they achieve an extremely high certified grade. The weight of the 2008 cent remains standard for modern Lincoln cents at 2.50 grams. Any significant deviation from that weight could indicate either a damaged coin or a rare wrong planchet error. If a 2008 penny were somehow struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, that could create substantial value. But documented cases of such dramatic mint errors for this date are extraordinarily scarce. When discussing market value, we must remember that coin pricing is driven by supply and demand. With billions minted, the supply of 2008 cents is enormous. Demand is moderate because collectors building Lincoln cent albums need one example for their collection. Once they have a single uncirculated red coin, they rarely need another. That limits upward price pressure. Now imagine someone claims their 2008 penny is worth $299 million. To put that into perspective, some of the most famous and historically significant coins in American numismatics, coins that are unique or nearly unique, have sold for a few $1,000,000, not hundreds of millions. For a coin struck in the billions in 2008 to reach such a price would require a once-in-history minting anomaly of unprecedented significance, combined with intense collector competition and cultural importance. There is no verified auction record supporting anything remotely close to that number for this issue. However, that doesn't mean the 2008 penny is boring. On the contrary, it represents the end of the Lincoln Memorial reverse era. In 2009, the United States Mint introduced 4 different reverse designs commemorating the bicentennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, depicting stages of his life. That makes 2008 the final standard memorial reverse year, a symbolic conclusion to nearly 5 decades of design continuity. Collectors who build complete Lincoln cent collections view the 2008 as a necessary closing chapter before the 2009 commemoratives and the 2010 Union Shield reverse design. In that sense, the 2008 coin holds historical importance within the broader Lincoln cent series. Another interesting angle is long-term speculation. Some collectors store rolls of high-grade modern pennies in hopes that decades from now, pristine examples will be harder to find. Over time, many coins are damaged, corroded, or lost. Survival rates of perfect coins shrink. While it is unlikely that 2008 D cents will ever become major rarities, condition scarcity could gradually push premium examples higher. Storage plays a huge role in preserving value. If you believe you have a high-grade 2008 D penny, it should be stored in a cool, dry environment, ideally in inert holders that prevent PVC contamination. Even fingerprints can permanently damage the delicate copper surface. As we continue exploring this coin story, remember that numismatics is about more than just money. It is about history, craftsmanship, economics, and the thrill of the hunt. The 2008 D 1 cent coin may only carry a face value of 1 cent, but its journey from molten metal to pocket change to potential collectible encapsulates the entire lifecycle of modern American coinage, and this is only part of the story. In the next section, we will go even deeper into advanced grading analysis, population data trends, comparison with other modern Lincoln cents, and realistic long-term investment expectations for collectors who are serious about understanding the true potential of the 2008 D penny. As we move even deeper into the complete story of the 2008 D 1 cent coin, we now need to explore something that separates casual coin holders from serious numismatists, and that is long-term market behavior, survival rates, registry competition, and the hidden mathematics behind modern coin values. Because while the 2008 D Lincoln cent may seem simple on the surface, the dynamics that influence its potential collectible value are layered and surprisingly complex. To truly understand this coin, we must first step back and remember that it belongs to the long-running Lincoln cent series, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln. That decision by the United States Mint marked the first time a real historical figure appeared on a regularly circulating U.S. coin. The original portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner, and remarkably, that same portrait still appears on the obverse of the 2008 D penny nearly a century later. This continuity gives every Lincoln cent, including the 2008 D, a powerful historical connection that stretches back over 100 years. Now let's talk about survival rates. Although approximately 2.85 billion 2008 D cents were minted in Denver, not all of those coins will survive in collectible condition. Coins are lost, melted, damaged, corroded, or permanently stained every single year. Zinc core pennies in particular are vulnerable to environmental damage. If the copper plating is breached, the zinc underneath reacts quickly, causing bubbling, corrosion, and deterioration. Over decades, a significant portion of today's high-grade coins may degrade, especially if stored improperly. This introduces a long-term concept called conditional rarity over time. Right now, high-grade 2008 D cents are available because the coin is relatively modern. But imagine 40 or 50 years from now. How many pristine MS67 or MS68 red examples will still exist? How many will have maintained full red color without spotting? That uncertainty creates speculation among collectors who carefully store original rolls in temperature-controlled environments. Another fascinating factor influencing modern coin values is registry set competition. Major grading services like Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company allow collectors to build competitive digital sets of certified coins. Each coin receives points based on grade rarity. The higher the grade, the more points it contributes. Collectors who want the number 1 ranked Lincoln cent registry set must obtain the highest graded example of every date and mint mark, including the 2008 D. This competitive environment can temporarily drive prices far beyond normal price guide levels. If only a handful of MS68 red examples exist and two serious registry competitors both want the finest known specimen, bidding wars can erupt. In those rare situations, prices may spike into hundreds or even over $1,000 for what is otherwise a very common date. However, these are exceptional circumstances tied to perfection in competition, not ordinary circulated coins. Let's break down realistic market tiers for clarity. A heavily circulated 2008 D penny found in pocket change remains worth 1 cent. A lightly circulated example might sell for 2 to 5 cents in bulk. A bright uncirculated roll-fresh coin could bring 10 to 50 cents if sold individually. Certified MS65 red coins might trade between $5 and $15 depending on demand. MS67 red coins might reach $75 to $200 in strong auctions. MS68 red coins, if verified and among the finest known, could potentially cross into higher territory depending on population reports. But here is the key reality check: even the absolute finest known 2008 D Lincoln cent does not approach millions of dollars in verified sales history. Claims of $299 million are completely unsupported by numismatic auction records. For comparison, some of the rarest and most historically significant U.S. coins that are unique or nearly unique, have sold for amounts in the single-digit millions. A common 2008 D penny does not fall into that category of rarity. That being said, the educational value of this coin is tremendous. It represents the final year of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design, created by Frank Gasparo in 1959. For nearly half a century, that reverse defined the American penny. The 2008 D therefore marks the closing chapter of a design era. In 2009, special reverses were issued to commemorate Lincoln's bicentennial, and in 2010, the Union Shield reverse replaced the memorial permanently. That transition gives 2008 symbolic importance as the last standard memorial cent. Let's also talk about die varieties. While no major nationally recognized double die variety for the 2008 D cent commands large premiums, minor die chips and die cracks are known. Collectors often search for small cut breaks or retained die cracks along the rim. These are interesting and collectible but generally sell for modest premiums, often under $50 unless the error is dramatic. Another area of interest is roll searching. Many hobbyists purchase $25 boxes of pennies from banks and search for high-grade examples, errors, or varieties. The thrill of finding a flawless 2008 D cent among hundreds of circulated coins keeps the hobby alive. The time investment is significant, but for many collectors, the hunt is part of the reward. It's also important to understand inflation and metal economics. The cost to produce a penny has exceeded 1 cent for many years. Because the coin's intrinsic metal value is less than its production cost, there have been discussions about eliminating the denomination entirely. If production eventually stops permanently, all modern pennies including the 2008 D may gain a different kind of historical relevance as artifacts from a discontinued denomination. However, historical relevance does not automatically equal massive market value. Long-term investment potential in modern coins depends on selective buying. Instead of hoarding circulated examples, serious collectors focus on top population-graded coins or dramatic mint errors. Quality always outperforms quantity in numismatics. 10,000 common pennies stored in a jar are unlikely to outperform one exceptional certified top-grade specimen. We should also examine environmental preservation. Copper-plated zinc coins are highly sensitive to humidity. Storage in airtight holders with silica gel packs can dramatically improve survival of red surfaces. Direct handling should always be avoided. Even slight skin oils can create permanent spots over time. Many high-grade modern coins lose value simply due to improper storage. When you analyze the 2008 D penny through this deeper lens, you begin to see how even a coin with billions minted can have layers of complexity. It is a case study in supply versus conditional demand. It teaches grading discipline. It demonstrates how registry competition can influence pricing. It shows how misinformation about extreme values spreads easily online, and most importantly, it reminds collectors that knowledge is the most valuable asset in numismatics. Understanding the real market, verified auction data, population reports, and historical context protects collectors from unrealistic expectations. As we continue forward, the next phase of our exploration will dive into hypothetical scenarios, future projections for modern Lincoln cents, advanced authentication techniques, and how to identify whether your 2008 D penny is worth submitting for professional grading, because sometimes, the difference between 1 cent and $100 lies in microscopic details invisible to the untrained eye. Now, as we move further into this deep exploration of the 2008 D 1 cent coin, we need to examine the microscopic world, the level where serious collectors operate, where magnification, lighting angles, surface texture, and strike characteristics determine whether a coin remains an ordinary cent or becomes a premium collectible. Because in modern numismatics, especially for coins struck in the billions, tiny details make enormous differences in value. When examining a 2008 D Lincoln cent under 5x to 10x magnification, the first thing professionals look for is surface preservation. The copper plating should appear smooth and uninterrupted. Any small nicks, contact marks, or abrasions caused during the minting process reduce grade potential. Remember, after striking, coins fall into large bins and collide with each other. These collisions create bag marks. Even microscopic marks can prevent a coin from reaching MS68 or higher. The luster is another crucial factor. Luster refers to the way light reflects off the microscopic flow lines created during the strike. On a high-grade 2008 descent, the luster should be vibrant and cartwheel smoothly when tilted under light. Dull or muted luster often indicates friction or improper storage. Collectors often rotate the coin slowly under a single light source to observe this cartwheel effect. If the light breaks unevenly, the grade may suffer. Strike quality is also important. Even though the 2008 descents were mass-produced at the Denver facility of the United States Mint, not every strike was equally sharp. On strong strikes, the details in the Lincoln Memorial columns on the reverse should be crisp. Under magnification, you can sometimes see faint inner details between the columns. A weak strike may blur these features. While strike weakness alone does not always lower grade drastically, it can influence overall eye appeal. Eye appeal itself is one of the most subjective yet powerful components of value. Two coins may both grade MS67 red, but one with blazing color and perfectly balanced surfaces may command a higher auction price simply because it looks better. Advanced collectors develop a trained eye for symmetry, color balance, and brightness. Now let's discuss color stability, because modern copper-plated zinc cents like the 2008D are notorious for developing spots. These spots often appear as tiny dark freckles on the surface. Even a few minor carbon spots can reduce a coin's desirability. A spotless fully red example becomes increasingly harder to find as time passes. That is why long-term preservation is so critical. Professional graders at companies like Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company examine coins under controlled lighting conditions. They evaluate strike, luster, surface preservation, and eye appeal together before assigning a final grade. A single deep contact mark in a prime focal area such as Lincoln's cheek can prevent a coin from achieving a top population grade. Let's talk about population reports in more detail. Population reports list how many coins of a specific date and mint mark have been graded at each level. For the 2008 D penny, the majority of submitted coins cluster in the MS65 to MS67 range. The jump from MS67 to MS68 is dramatic in rarity. That tiny 1-point difference can multiply value several times over. However, because modern coins are still being submitted, populations can increase over time. This means today's top population coin might not remain rare forever. Another advanced topic is die state progression. Dies used to strike coins wear down gradually. Early die state coins often show sharper detail and stronger luster. Late die state coins may display die cracks, flow lines, or minor distortions. Some collectors actually prefer early die state examples for their crispness. Others enjoy dramatic die cracks as collectible curiosities. However, ordinary late die wear does not automatically make a coin valuable. We also need to examine the economics behind coin submission. Grading is not free. Submitting a modern penny for professional grading may cost significantly more than the coin is worth unless it has a strong chance of receiving a very high grade. This is why experienced collectors carefully pre-screen coins before submission. They examine dozens or even hundreds of coins to find a single candidate worthy of grading. Now let's address the myth of extreme multi-million-dollar valuations one more time from a logical standpoint. For any coin to reach hundreds of millions of dollars, it would need to be unique, historically transformative, and culturally iconic. The 2008 descent, while historically interesting as the final memorial reverse year, does not meet those rarity criteria. Billions were struck. Millions remain in existence. There is no documented unique minting anomaly for this date that would justify astronomical valuations. However, modern coins can surprise collectors decades later under certain conditions. If future collectors place extraordinary emphasis on top-graded registry sets and if survival rates of flawless examples decline sharply, premium examples could appreciate gradually. But appreciation in numismatics is usually measured in percentages, not in impossible exponential leaps. Let's also explore how environmental damage affects long-term survival. Zinc core cents are especially vulnerable to moisture. If stored in damp basements or non-airtight containers, corrosion can begin under the copper plating. Once corrosion starts, it spreads internally and permanently damages the coin. That is why serious collectors use inert holders made from mylar or archival plastic and store coins in climate-controlled spaces. Another interesting aspect of the 2008 D penny is its place in generational collecting. Many younger collectors who began collecting in the 2000s may feel nostalgic about coins from their childhood. Nostalgia sometimes influences demand in future decades. Coins that were common during one generation can become more desirable when that generation reaches peak earning years. We should also consider the difference between raw coins and certified coins. Raw coins are ungraded and unslabbed. Their value depends heavily on the buyer's trust in the seller's grading opinion. Certified coins provide authentication and standardized grading, increasing buyer confidence. For modern coins like the 2008 Cent, certification makes the biggest difference only at very high grades. One more technical factor is planchet quality. Occasionally, planchets may contain minor impurities or surface roughness from the metal preparation process. These defects can limit grade. Perfect planchets are uncommon in mass production. Therefore, truly flawless surfaces are rare even among mint-fresh coins. As we keep unfolding the story of the 2008 D1 coin, we begin to realize that its true value lies not in exaggerated dollar claims but in understanding how modern coin markets function. It is a perfect teaching example. It shows how mintage numbers interact with conditional rarity. It demonstrates how microscopic imperfections determine market tiers. It highlights the importance of patience, research, and proper storage, and we are still not finished. In the next continuation, we will explore hypothetical long-term scenarios, compare the 2008 D-Cent with earlier key-date Lincoln cents, analyze collector behavior patterns, and break down whether holding modern rolls for decades is truly a wise strategy or simply a gamble driven by hope rather than historical precedent. As we continue this deep and detailed journey into the 2008 D1 coin, we now enter the most strategic phase of understanding, comparing it to earlier Lincoln cents, analyzing long-term investment patterns, and realistically evaluating whether saving rolls of modern pennies can ever turn into something truly significant over time. To fully understand the 2008 D penny, we must compare it to earlier key dates within the Lincoln cent series. When collectors talk about valuable Lincoln cents, they usually refer to coins like the 1909 SVDB, the 1914 D, or the famous 1955 double die. These coins became valuable because of low mintages, dramatic errors, or historical production circumstances. For example, early 20th century pennies had mintages in the hundreds of thousands or low millions. By contrast, the 2008 D penny was struck in the billions. That difference alone dramatically changes the rarity equation. The Lincoln cents series began in 1909 under the authority of the United States Mint to honor Abraham Lincoln. Over the decades, the series evolved through three major reverse designs: the Wheat reverse from 1909 to 1958, the Lincoln Memorial reverse from 1959 to 2008, and the Union Shield reverse beginning in 2010. The 2008 D-Cent represents the final regular year of the Memorial reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo. That alone gives it historical closure value within the series. However, historical closure does not equal rarity. The difference between important and rare is critical in numismatics. A coin can be historically meaningful yet extremely common. The 2008 D penny fits into that category. It closes an era but does so with a massive production run. Now let's analyze the strategy of saving rolls. Many collectors purchase $25 boxes of pennies from banks and pull out bright red 2008 D coins. Some store them in original bank-wrapped rolls. The idea is that decades from now, fewer pristine examples will remain. While this logic sounds appealing, history shows mixed results. In the 1960s and 1970s, millions of collectors saved rolls of then-modern coins. Today, many of those coins are still available at modest premiums because so many people had the same idea. The key concept here is population pressure. If thousands of collectors store rolls of 2008 D cents in mint condition, the future supply of high-grade coins remains large. That suppresses dramatic price growth. For a coin to skyrocket in value, most examples must disappear, be damaged, or never have been saved in quantity. The 2008 D penny does not meet that criterion. However, there is one angle where modern coins can outperform expectations: the highest possible certified grades. When grading companies like Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company assign grades such as MS68 red or higher, the number of coins reaching that level may be extremely small. Registry collectors who compete for the finest known sets can temporarily drive prices much higher than typical price guides suggest. This brings us to registry psychology. Collectors building top-ranked registry sets are not simply filling album holes. They are competing for status. Owning the single finest certified 2008 D cent becomes a matter of prestige. If population reports show only a handful graded at the very top, competition can intensify. In such cases, auction prices may surge far beyond normal expectations, though still nowhere near multi-million-dollar territory. Let's discuss long-term survival again from a scientific angle. Copper-plated zinc coins are chemically unstable compared to solid bronze coins of earlier decades. Once the thin copper layer is compromised, zinc corrosion spreads rapidly. Over 30 to 50 years, many improperly stored 2008 D cents may develop spots or bubbling. That natural degradation could reduce the number of pristine red examples. Still, because so many coins were struck, the baseline supply remains massive. Another important factor is generational collecting trends. Collecting popularity rises and falls over time. If future generations maintain strong interest in Lincoln cents, demand for top condition examples may remain steady. If interest declines, even high-grade coins may stagnate. Numismatics, like any collectible field, depends on active participation. We must also compare the 2008 D penny to the 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial Series. In 2009, 4 different reverse designs were issued representing stages of Lincoln's life. Those coins were heavily saved as well. The final memorial reverse year, 2008, sometimes receives attention because it precedes that special commemorative year. Some collectors enjoy assembling transitional year sets that include 2008 memorial cents and the 4 2009 designs together. Now let's address investment expectations clearly and honestly. A typical circulated 2008 D penny will likely remain worth 1 cent for the foreseeable future. A bright uncirculated example may sell for a small premium. A top-grade certified example could hold moderate collector value. But the idea of a standard 2008 D penny reaching $299 million is not supported by any auction data, rarity statistics, or historical precedent. Even the most famous American coins that are unique or historically extraordinary, have sold for a few $1,000,000, not hundreds of millions. So why do such extreme claims circulate online? Often it is confusion between different dates, misunderstanding of error coins, or exaggerated headlines designed to attract attention. In reality, coin collecting rewards knowledge and patience, not viral hype. However, that does not mean the 2008 D penny lacks importance. It remains a tangible link to early 21st century American coinage. It represents the final chapter of the memorial reverse era. It reflects economic shifts in metal composition. And it serves as an educational foundation for understanding grading, preservation, and supply-demand principles. If someone wants to maximize potential value from 2008 D cents, the smartest strategy would be selective quality control. Instead of hoarding thousands of average coins, focus on identifying the very best examples. Examine surfaces under magnification. Check for flawless luster. Store coins properly in inert holders. Consider grading only if the coin truly appears exceptional. Ultimately, the true power of the 2008 D 1 cent coin lies in what it teaches collectors about realism. It teaches that mintage matters. Condition matters even more. Demand fluctuates. Markets evolve. And hype must always be separated from documented sales records, and we are still not done. In the next continuation, we will explore extreme hypothetical scenarios, future market shifts, potential discontinuation effects of the penny denomination itself, and what could theoretically happen to modern Lincoln cents if economic or legislative changes dramatically reshaped the landscape of American coinage. As we continue even deeper into this complete exploration of the 2008 D 1 cent coin, we now enter a fascinating phase of analysis, looking at hypothetical future scenarios, economic shifts, and what could realistically happen if the penny as a denomination continues to change in relevance within the American monetary system. The 2008 D Lincoln cent was struck during a period when the penny was already being questioned. Production costs had been rising for years. Because the coin is made primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating, its intrinsic metal value is minimal, yet the cost of manufacturing, transporting, and distributing the coin has often exceeded its 1 cent face value. The United States Mint has publicly reported that producing a penny costs more than 1 cent. That economic imbalance creates long-term uncertainty about the denomination's future. Now imagine a scenario where the penny is permanently discontinued. If no new cents are produced, every existing Lincoln cent, including the 2008D, becomes part of a closed historical system. When production stops for any coin series, collectors often become more aware of the final years of issue. The 2008D already represents the final year of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design. If the entire denomination were eventually phased out, coins like the 2008D could gain symbolic status as part of the final decades of circulating 1-cent pieces. However, symbolic importance does not automatically create rarity. Even if penny production stopped tomorrow, billions of 2008D coins would still exist. That enormous supply would continue to anchor prices at modest levels for ordinary examples. Let's explore a more dramatic hypothetical. Suppose that over several decades, corrosion and environmental damage destroy a large percentage of surviving 2008D cents. Zinc core pennies are particularly vulnerable once the copper plating is compromised. Moisture, soil exposure, and improper storage can cause irreversible deterioration. Over time, many coins may become unsuitable for collectors. This natural attrition could reduce the number of pristine red examples significantly. In such a long-term scenario, high-grade certified coins, especially those graded by Professional Coin Grading Service or Numismatic Guarantee Company, could become more desirable. Registry-set competition decades from now might focus heavily on survival quality. The finest known examples might command stronger premiums relative to today's values. But even then, growth would likely be gradual and proportionate to collector demand, not explosive to unrealistic levels. Another factor to consider is technological advancement in grading. As imaging technology improves, future grading services may detect microscopic imperfections even more precisely than today. This could tighten standards and make true top population coins even scarcer. If grading becomes more exacting, previously certified coins might not meet newer ultra-strict criteria, which could affect perceived rarity tiers. Now let's discuss the role of digital marketplaces. In the early 21st century, online auction platforms dramatically increased access to coin trading. Collectors worldwide can bid on certified coins instantly. This global exposure benefits modern coins like the 2008D by expanding the buyer pool. However, increased visibility also means supply transparency. Buyers can easily see how many similar coins are listed at any given time. Transparency tends to stabilize prices rather than inflate them. We should also consider demographic trends. Coin collecting popularity fluctuates with generations. If future generations rediscover strong interest in physical collectibles as a reaction against digital-only assets, tangible items like coins could experience renewed demand. Lincoln cents, being affordable entry-level collectibles, often serve as a gateway into the hobby. At the same time, inflation impacts perception. In 2008, $1 had more purchasing power than it made decades later. If inflation continues long-term, nominal dollar values of collectibles could rise simply because currency value declines. That means a coin worth $50 today might be worth $150 in future dollars, not necessarily because of increased rarity, but because of monetary inflation. It is important to distinguish real value growth from inflation-adjusted growth. Now let's address one more extreme theoretical scenario: discovery of a unique mint error. If, for example, a 2008D cent were discovered struck on an entirely wrong metal planchet, perhaps accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, that could create a rare and valuable error. But such errors are extraordinarily rare and must be authenticated carefully. Even then, historical precedent shows that even spectacular modern mint errors usually sell in the thousands or tens of thousands, not hundreds of millions. When evaluating long-term strategy, serious collectors focus on three pillars: condition, certification, and documentation. A flawless 2008D cent preserved in a certified holder with a top population designation stands a far better chance of appreciating than thousands of circulated examples stored loosely. Let's also discuss liquidity. Modern coins like the 2008D penny are highly liquid at low values because they remain common. However, at very high grades, liquidity can decrease. A top population coin may require a specialized buyer who understands registry competition. That can create price volatility, strong when two bidders compete, softer when demand is quiet. The final key concept in this part of our exploration is realism. Coin collecting rewards patience and education. It is not a lottery ticket. The 2008 D1 cent coin is historically meaningful as the last standard memorial reverse year before the 2009 design transition. It is educational as a study of modern mass production and conditional rarity. It is affordable and accessible to new collectors. But it does not possess the rarity structure necessary to justify astronomical valuations like $299 million. What it does possess is the power to teach about grading precision, about economic shifts in coin composition, about supply and demand, about the psychology of registry competition, and about the importance of separating hype from verified auction data. And as we continue forward, the next part will take us even deeper into advanced comparison analysis, examining how the 2008 D-cent stands against other late-era memorial cents, analyzing population growth curves, and evaluating whether modern coins can ever replicate the dramatic value increases seen in early 20th century rarities. As we continue this deep and extended exploration of the 2008 D1 cent coin, we now move into advanced comparative analysis, placing this coin side by side with other late-era Lincoln memorial cents, studying population growth patterns, and examining whether modern coins can ever truly replicate the explosive value growth seen in early 20th century rarities. To begin, we must understand the structural difference between early Lincoln cents and late memorial cents like the 2008 D. When the Lincoln cent debuted in 1909 honoring Abraham Lincoln, mintages were dramatically lower than modern production numbers. Early branch mint facilities lacked today's high-speed coining technology. As a result, coins such as early San Francisco and Denver issues were struck in far smaller quantities. By contrast, by 2008 the United States Mint had decades of technological advancement behind it. High-speed presses, improved die life, and automated quality control allowed billions of coins to be produced efficiently. The 2008 D mintage alone reached approximately 2.85 billion pieces. When comparing supply structures, this difference is enormous. Even if 90% of 2008 D pennies were destroyed or damaged over time, hundreds of millions would still remain. And now let's compare the 2008 D to other late memorial cents, such as those from the early 2000s. Many of those dates also had mintages exceeding 1 billion pieces. In the marketplace today, most of them remain worth face value in circulated condition. Even high-grade certified examples generally trade within modest premium ranges unless they achieve ultra-high grades like MS68 red or above. This introduces the concept of grade compression. Because modern coins are produced with improved quality control, a large number of coins cluster within high mint state grades such as MS65, MS66, and MS67. When many coins share similar grades, price differentiation becomes smaller. Only at the extreme upper levels does pricing separate significantly. Let's examine population growth curves. When a coin like the 2008 D is first released, relatively few collectors submit examples for professional grading. Over time, as registry competition increases, more coins are submitted. Population reports grow. This can dilute the rarity of certain grades. For example, if only 10 coins were originally graded MS68 red, prices might spike due to scarcity. But if 50 more are later certified at the same grade, market values may stabilize or decline slightly due to increased supply. This phenomenon differs dramatically from early key dates where supply cannot increase because no additional coins exist. With modern coins, hidden quantities often remain in sealed mint sets or original rolls waiting to be discovered and submitted. That ongoing potential supply acts as a ceiling on extreme price growth. Now let's address whether modern coins can ever replicate early 20th century rarity explosions. Historically, coins such as the famous early doubled dies or low mintage branch mint issues became valuable because collectors did not save them in large numbers initially. By the time the hobby matured and demand surged, supply was already limited. In contrast, modern coins are saved in enormous quantities from day one. Millions of collectors actively hoard new issues immediately upon release. However, there is one area where modern coins sometimes surprise the market: conditional ultra-rarity. If a coin proves exceptionally difficult to find above a certain grade, for example, if MS69 red examples are nearly impossible due to microscopic spotting, then top population coins can become valuable within a niche competitive market. Still, even those values operate within collector scale economics, not global art market scale. Another important comparison is material composition. Pre-1982 Lincoln cents were primarily solid bronze. They age differently and often retain surface stability better than copper-plated zinc cents. The 2008D, being zinc core, is more vulnerable to environmental damage. Over long time periods, that could reduce the number of attractive surviving examples. Yet because of massive initial production, attrition would need to be extreme to create true rarity. Let's talk about demand elasticity. If prices rise significantly for high-grade 2008D cents, more collectors may search through stored rolls and submit coins for grading. That increases supply, which can bring prices back down. This self-correcting mechanism is common in modern coin markets. It prevents runaway valuations in most cases. We should also consider the cultural aspect. The Lincoln cent remains one of the most recognized coins in American history. It is tied symbolically to Abraham Lincoln's legacy, which gives the series long-term collectability. The 2008D is particularly interesting because it marks the final memorial reverse year before the 2009 Bicentennial series and the 2010 Union Shield redesign. Transitional years often hold sentimental and historical interest, but sentimental interest must be separated from measurable scarcity. For a coin to achieve extraordinary market levels, three conditions usually align: extreme rarity, high demand, and strong historical narrative. The 2008D meets the narrative component moderately as an end-of-era issue. It meets demand modestly through collectors completing Lincoln sets. But it does not meet extreme rarity thresholds due to its enormous mintage. Now let's analyze long-term appreciation patterns. Modern coins often experience an initial excitement phase, followed by stabilization, and then slow gradual growth aligned with inflation and steady collector demand. Sharp spikes usually occur only when a coin attains top population status and registry competition intensifies. Liquidity is also important. Because the 2008D penny is common, it is easy to buy and sell at face value or small premiums. However, ultra-high-grade certified examples may have a narrower buyer pool. That creates potential volatility in auction results. In examining the broader numismatic ecosystem, it becomes clear that the 2008D penny serves as a case study in modern coin economics. It demonstrates how technology has changed production. It shows how grading precision influences value. It highlights the difference between hype-driven claims and verified auction data. The idea of a $299 million valuation for a standard 2008D cent is not supported by historical precedent, supply structure, or documented sales. Even the most celebrated American rarities have not approached such numbers. Real value growth in numismatics is incremental and rooted in scarcity and demand, not viral exaggeration. Yet despite all this realism, the coin still holds importance. It represents the closing chapter of nearly 5 decades of Lincoln Memorial reverse design. It stands at the edge of a historical transition in 2009. It reflects early 21st century minting technology. And it remains accessible to new collectors entering the hobby. As we continue to the next part, we will examine advanced authentication techniques, detail error identification methods, and explore whether hidden varieties or overlooked mint anomalies could ever elevate a 2008D penny beyond its current market tier, because sometimes, the smallest overlooked detail can reshape how a coin is perceived decades later. As we continue deeper into this extended and highly detailed exploration of the 2008D 1-cent coin, we now move into the most technical and investigative layer of numismatics: authentication, advanced error detection, microscopic analysis, and the possibility of overlooked varieties that could influence long-term collector interest. When evaluating a 2008D Lincoln cent at a professional level, authentication is the first step. Fortunately, because this coin is modern and mass-produced by the United States Mint, counterfeiting risk is extremely low for ordinary examples. The coin's face value is too small to justify widespread forgery. However, when discussing high-grade certified examples or dramatic mint errors, authentication becomes more relevant to professional grading companies such as Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company. Use advanced magnification, weight measurement, digital imaging, and metallurgical verification to confirm authenticity. A genuine 2008D cent should weigh approximately 2.50 grams, allow for minor tolerance variation, measure 19 mm in diameter, and consist of a zinc core with copper plating. Any deviation from the standard weight can indicate post-mint damage, environmental corrosion, or in extremely rare cases, a wrong planchet strike. If a 2008D penny were struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, such as a dime or foreign coin blank, that would create a significant mint error. These wrong planchet errors are rare but highly collectible. Still, even dramatic modern errors typically trade in the thousands, not millions. Now let's talk about doubled dies, one of the most misunderstood areas in coin collecting. A true doubled die occurs during die creation, not during the strike itself. If the hub impresses the design onto the die multiple times at slightly different alignments, doubling can appear on the final coins. Collectors examine areas such as the date, the word liberty, and I in God we trust for signs of separation lines or extra thickness. For the 2008 D penny, no major widely recognized doubled die variety commands high premiums. Minor machine doubling, which appears flat and shelf-like, is common but does not significantly increase value. Distinguishing between true doubled dies and machine doubling requires experience and magnification. Another important area of investigation is die cracks and cuds. As dies age, stress fractures can form. These cracks transfer raised lines onto struck coins. If a crack reaches the edge and forms a retained cud, collectors may pay modest premiums depending on size and location. Large cuds are more dramatic and desirable than tiny hairline cracks. We should also consider off-center strikes. If a planchet is not properly seated between the dies during striking, part of the design may be missing. A 10% off-center 2008 D penny might sell for a small premium. A 50% off-center strike with a visible date could command a much stronger price. The visibility of the date is critical because collectors need to identify the year. Broad strikes are another error type. These occur when the retaining collar fails to hold the planchet during striking, causing the coin to expand slightly beyond normal diameter. Broad-struck 2008 D cents are collectible but typically not extraordinarily valuable. Clipped planchets, caused when the metal blanking machine overlaps punch cuts, create crescent-shaped missing sections. These are genuine mint errors and can bring premiums depending on severity. Now let's discuss surface diagnostics. Under magnification, professionals look for flow lines radiating from the center of the coin. These microscopic lines are created when metal moves outward during striking. Authentic luster flows in a radial pattern. Artificial polishing or cleaning disrupts this natural texture and dramatically reduces collector value. Cleaning is one of the most damaging mistakes new collectors make. Attempting to brighten a 2008 D penny with chemicals or abrasive cloth permanently alters the surface. Even if the coin appears shinier afterward, graders can detect unnatural surface disturbance instantly. A cleaned coin loses premium potential. Another advanced topic is color stability over time. Copper-plated zinc cents develop oxidation patterns depending on storage conditions. Coins stored in stable, low-humidity environments maintain red surfaces longer. Coins exposed to temperature fluctuations develop spotting more rapidly. This is why long-term preservation directly impacts future value tiers. Let's explore the possibility of overlooked micro-varieties. Occasionally, subtle die polish lines, small hub modifications, or transitional die pairings can attract niche collector interest. However, for such a variety to gain widespread recognition, it must be documented, published in recognized variety catalogs, and supported by consistent examples. As of current market knowledge, the 2008 D penny does not have a blockbuster variety equivalent to famous earlier doubled dies. One must also evaluate market psychology. If a new variety were discovered tomorrow and widely promoted, interest could spike temporarily. But sustained value requires genuine rarity and consistent collector demand. The modern coin market reacts quickly to new discoveries due to digital communication. Information spreads fast, preventing prolonged scarcity exploitation. Now let's address grading thresholds again in the context of error coins. Even a spectacular mint error will not reach its full value if heavily worn or damaged after leaving the mint. Condition still matters. A dramatic off-center strike in mint state is more desirable than a worn example. Another factor influencing long-term prospects is documentation. Coins with provenance, meaning documented auction history or discovery context, sometimes attract additional interest. However, for modern issues like the 2008 D cent, provenance rarely adds major premiums unless tied to a unique discovery. From an investment perspective, advanced collectors analyze three scenarios: standard high-grade examples, certified top population examples, and dramatic mint errors. Among these, top population certified coins often offer the most stable premium potential because registry competition provides ongoing demand. Yet again, we return to realism. While rare error coins and ultra-high-grade specimens can command impressive sums relative to face value, the structural supply of 2008 D cents prevents extreme astronomical valuations. The coin's strength lies in educational value, accessibility, and its role as the final year of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design before the 2009 bicentennial changes. The deeper you study this coin, the more you understand how modern numismatics functions. It is not about viral headlines or exaggerated claims. It is about microscopic detail, preservation discipline, population tracking, and historical context, and we are approaching the final stretch of this extensive journey. In the next part, we will examine ultimate long-term projections, compare modern Lincoln cents with other modern U.S. coin series, and bring everything together into a final comprehensive perspective on the true realistic potential of the 2008 D1 cent coin, separating myth from measurable possibility once and for all. As we move into this next stage of our deep exploration of the 2008 D1 cent coin, we now bring everything together by comparing it to other modern U.S. coin series, analyzing long-term collector behavior patterns, and projecting what realistic future value paths could look like over multiple decades. This is where perspective becomes critical, because understanding the broader numismatic landscape allows us to see exactly where the 2008 D Lincoln cent truly stands. First, let's compare the 2008 D penny to other modern coins released around the same era. In the late 1990s and 2000s, the United States Mint produced several major circulating programs, including the state quarters, presidential dollars, and continued Lincoln cents. Many of these programs had extremely high mintages. Just like the 2008 D cent, most coins from those programs remain worth face value in circulated condition today. The key similarity is mass production. Modern minting technology allows billions of coins to be struck efficiently with relatively consistent quality. This reduces the likelihood of widespread weak strikes or major production flaws. As a result, most coins cluster within high mint state grades. When supply at high grades is plentiful, prices remain stable and modest. Now let's compare modern Lincoln cents like the 2008 D with pre-1982 bronze cents. Older bronze cents, especially from the early 20th century, had lower mintages and far fewer were preserved in high grade. Many circulated heavily during eras when coin collecting was less widespread. By the time hobby demand expanded significantly, surviving high-grade populations were already small. That is why certain earlier Lincoln cents command strong premiums today. In contrast, the 2008 D penny entered circulation in an era where collectors were already actively saving coins. Roll searching was common. Mint sets were widely purchased. Online marketplaces made buying and selling easy. This early preservation reduces long-term scarcity pressure. Let's talk about supply decay over time. All coins face attrition. They are lost, destroyed, corroded, or discarded. Zinc core cents like the 2008 D are especially vulnerable if exposed to moisture. Over several decades, some percentage will degrade beyond collectible condition. However, starting from billions of pieces means that even significant attrition leaves large remaining quantities. Now let's explore economic projections. If inflation continues over decades, nominal coin prices may rise. A coin worth $20 today might sell for $60 in 30 years, not necessarily because it became rarer, but because currency value changed. When evaluating future projections, collectors must adjust for inflation to measure real appreciation. Another important element is registry competition. As long as grading services such as Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company maintain competitive registry platforms, top population coins may retain premium status. The highest graded 2008 D red examples could continue to trade at elevated levels relative to average mint state coins. However, registry markets can fluctuate. If new submissions increase the population of top-grade coins, price pressure may decrease. Modern coins often experience this population expansion effect because additional high-grade examples can still be discovered in stored rolls or mint sets. Let's consider collector psychology over the long term. Nostalgia plays a role in value development. People often collect coins that were current during their childhood. Individuals who were young in 2008 may feel sentimental attachment to coins from that era decades later. If that generation enters peak earning years and begins assembling high-grade Lincoln sets, demand could rise modestly. Still, sentiment must align with scarcity to produce strong price movement. In the case of the 2008 D cent, scarcity exists primarily at the highest certified grades, not in ordinary examples. Now let's address once more the concept of extreme multi-million-dollar valuations. For a coin to approach hundreds of millions of dollars, it would need to be unique or nearly unique, historically transformative, and intensely demanded by wealthy collectors worldwide. Even legendary American rarities, coins that are famous beyond the hobby, have not reached that scale. A standard 2008D penny, struck in the billions, does not meet that rarity threshold where the 2008D truly shines as an educational benchmark. It represents the final year of the Lincoln Memorial reverse before the 2009 bicentennial redesign. It reflects early 21st century minting technology. It demonstrates how conditional rarity works in modern coins. And it provides an accessible entry point for new collectors learning grading and preservation skills. We should also consider diversification within collecting. Some collectors focus only on key dates. Others build complete date and mint mark sets. For the latter group, the 2008D is a necessary component. That steady baseline demand helps maintain modest premium levels for high-quality examples. Another angle is long-term historical documentation. Coins often gain context value when historians examine periods of economic transition. The 2008D penny was struck during a time of financial upheaval globally. While the coin itself is not rare, its year of issue connects it to broader economic narratives. Context can increase collector interest modestly, though again not dramatically. Liquidity also remains strong at lower value tiers. Because the coin is common, it is easy to buy or sell at minimal premiums. Ultra-high-grade coins may take longer to match with the right buyer, but registry collectors maintain active demand channels. So when projecting the future of the 2008D Lincoln cent, the most realistic outlook looks like this: circulated examples remain face value, bright uncirculated coins maintain small premiums, certified high-grade red examples hold stronger premiums, top population coins remain the most volatile and potentially highest valued within the series, dramatic mint errors remain. Niche collectibles with limited but dedicated demand, the coin's value is structured, layered, and measurable, not mythical. Its importance lies in history, condition, and collector behavior patterns rather than in exaggerated headlines. As we move into the final continuation, we will bring this entire extended discussion to its conclusion, summarizing the full lifecycle of the 2008D 1-cent coin, reinforcing realistic expectations, and delivering a final comprehensive perspective on where it stands within the Lincoln cent legacy and the broader world of American numismatics. As we reach the final segment of this comprehensive exploration of the 2008D 1-cent coin, it is time to bring together all the insights we have discussed, from minting details and historical context to grading, errors, collector psychology, market dynamics, and realistic long-term projections. This will provide a complete, nuanced understanding of the coin, separating myth from measurable reality while celebrating its unique place in the Lincoln cent series. The 2008D Lincoln cent represents the final year of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design, a design that had endured for 50 years since its introduction in 1959 by Frank Gasparo. That alone gives the coin historical significance. It closes the chapter on nearly half a century of consistent coinage design, bridging the gap to the 2009 bicentennial series and the subsequent 2010 Union Shield reverse. For collectors, historical closure is meaningful. It adds a story to the coin beyond its face value. From a production standpoint, the 2008D was struck at the Denver Mint with a massive mintage of approximately 2.85 billion coins. Each coin has a zinc core with a thin copper plating, weighs 2.50 grams, and measures 19 millimeters in diameter. The obverse features the familiar Lincoln portrait, originally designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, while the reverse showcases the Lincoln Memorial in precise detail. These technical specifications remain consistent across virtually all examples, making the coin instantly recognizable to collectors and casual observers alike. Despite the enormous mintage, condition plays a decisive role in determining collector value. Circulated coins are typically worth only face value, occasionally commanding a few cents as novelty items. Uncirculated examples with original red surfaces may fetch modest premiums, while certified high-grade coins, particularly MS67 or MS68 red, can command significantly higher values within the niche of top population collectors. Here, registry competition, population scarcity, and eye appeal intersect to create measurable premium potential. Error coins and minor die varieties add additional layers of interest. While no blockbuster double die or unique error is widely recognized for the 2008D, subtle die cracks, cuds, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and minor planchet irregularities remain collectible. These errors typically trade in modest ranges, from a few dollars for minor cuts to several $100s for dramatic off-center strikes. Even these variations emphasize the principle that microscopic details, minting anomalies, and proper authentication can dramatically influence value. Understanding the long-term prospects of the 2008 penny requires a nuanced view of both supply and demand. Billions of coins were struck, so absolute rarity is not present. However, the survival of pristine, flawless, fully read coins is limited due to environmental factors, handling, and storage practices. Long-term preservation, including storage in inert holders, avoidance of moisture and temperature fluctuations, and protection from chemical exposure, directly influences how many high-grade coins remain available decades from now. Historical context also plays a role in perceived value. The coin was struck in the early 21st century, a period of global financial uncertainty, rising production costs, and debate over the continued relevance of the penny. These macroeconomic conditions contribute to the coin's narrative, giving it an additional layer of interest for collectors who value context as much as condition. From an investment perspective, realistic expectations are critical. Ordinary 2008 cents will remain worth 1 cent for the foreseeable future. Bright uncirculated examples will hold small premiums. Certified MS67 or MS68 red coins will maintain moderate collector value, and rare mint errors or top population examples may appreciate modestly over time. The idea of a $299 million valuation is purely mythical, unsupported by any auction record, historical precedent, or numismatic logic. Even legendary early 20th century coins that are unique or nearly unique have not reached such figures, yet the 2008 penny holds undeniable educational and symbolic value. It teaches collectors the importance of microscopic surface analysis, grading precision, conditional rarity, and preservation discipline. It illustrates the dynamics of modern coin production, registry set competition, and the economics of mass-minted collectibles. It also provides an accessible entry point for novice collectors, offering hands-on experience with modern numismatics without financial risk. Finally, the 2008 penny serves as a bridge in the Lincoln cent legacy. It connects the long-running memorial reverse era to the modern commemorative and Union Shield designs. It is a coin that encapsulates history, craft, economy, and collector behavior all in a small 19mm package. Its story extends beyond its face value, offering lessons in patience, realism, and appreciation for numismatic history. In conclusion, the 2008 1 cent coin may not be the gateway to unimaginable fortunes, but it is a perfect example of how modern numismatics functions. Its value is layered, measurable, and grounded in condition, scarcity at high grades, and historical narrative. By understanding the production process, grading standards, error types, preservation techniques, and market dynamics, collectors can fully appreciate the coin's significance within the Lincoln Cent series and the broader world of American coinage. It remains a tangible piece of history, a teaching tool, and a collectible that rewards those who combine knowledge, care, and patience, proving that even a single cent can tell an incredibly rich story.